Yep, the Sentinel Knight figured that Aquitar had a team of Power Rangers, however alien they may have seemed to you. So here's the thing, and I want to explain this for you. This will probably be like first blooper or something. That take was stopped because something that I said triggered Cortana on my computer. And she comes up and she beeps, and it's just like something out of the corner of my eye that moved, and it throws off my train of thought. This happens more than you might think. That thing is surprisingly sensitive to anything that sounds similar to hey and then Cortana. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. The Rangers just went through a pretty major ordeal, managing to win through in the world of the Shattered Grid. However, Alpha said that they then needed to jump into the future of that very dimension. What's going on there, and how will all of these events impact the Hyperforce team? Let's find out by taking a look at the 21st session of Hyperforce, Quest for the Crown. We join the Rangers on the time ship as they're just sitting around talking shop about the Alliance. Marv suddenly realizes that something's wrong with his morpher. It's not sitting on his arm right. It's kind of half dangling off, almost like somebody's been pulling on it. Vesper says that she's also noticed something strange. One of her arms seems to be gone and replaced instead with this shiny chrome version. The palm features a number pad, and just like in Space or Super Mega Force, numeric codes seem to trigger different functions, but she has no idea where she got it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and drop the pretense and just lay this out for everybody. The Hyperforce Rangers no longer remember their visit to the Shattered Grid dimension. This is apparently related to something that happens in the comics themselves in Shattered Grid. However, as I've made clear before, I'm really not sure how the Hyperforce Rangers tie into the Shattered Grid storyline, except for, and this is spoilers if you're not reading, so sorry, Skull being a turncoat Red Sentry who both appeared in Hyperforce and in the comics. If any of you understand Hyperforce's relation to Shattered Grid, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. Again, avoid spoilers if you're not reading the comics, but it's just not something I'm really picking up on. I have heard some rumblings that Hyperforce may actually appear in the comics coming up. The Hyperforce Rangers are going to be at San Diego Comic-Con, so maybe we'll get an explanation on that coming up, but if you already know, let me know. Eddie also has a Furbus doll that he doesn't remember having. Hail Furbus. Vesper suddenly attacks Alpha, feeling like he took her arm. Marv checks the data records of their morphers and finds that the date is correct, but an entire month of logged data has been deleted. Alpha decides to check the ship's records and sees that they have 22 unviewed messages. And every single message is actually from Joe. He tells the Rangers that he and Nadira are finally tying the knot, and also that Jen has told him that she has something to give him. He starts to grow more and more concerned as the Rangers aren't responding to these messages. By the 8th message, he says that he's coming to look for them. His panic kind of confuses Marv, as in his mind, the two of them just saw each other. By the final messages, Joe says that something very strange is going on. After leaving to go find the Rangers, Joe woke up right back in his own bed with no memory of how he got there. Nadira asked him if he was ready for the wedding, because it's today. The Rangers get back in contact with Joe, and Marv asks him if maybe he's rushing things a little bit, getting married so soon. Joe responds that he and Nadira have been engaged for years. Now, at first I thought this was tied into the whole memory loss thing, but that only impacted 1 month of time, so really it comes off more as Marv just not knowing that his brother was engaged. The Rangers decide that they can figure out what's going on with the whole missing month later. What's important right now is being there for Joe on his big day. They rush back to Silver Hills 3017, though it occurs to me that you don't have to rush back anywhere if you have a time machine. Quickly getting into formal wear and heading to the Time Force Chapel. As they check back in with their friends and comrades, they realize that they've been thought to have been missing for an entire month. Jen couldn't make the wedding, unfortunately, but Rancic is there, of course, as is Chief Patel, Abigail, the Rangers class, Marv and Joe's parents, Joe's friends, and Nadira's circle. Nadira wears a white dress with silver accents and pink boots. Joe wears a pink tuxedo with a silver tie. A nice little bit of cross-coloring there. And no, this story actually has nothing to do with the wedding being disrupted, the Rangers having to defend it. The wedding happens, the two kiss, Mazel Tov, they're married. Jack pulls Eddie aside and says that this all seems very weird. Eddie says, yes, love is weird, no, it is a strange thing that is happening today. But Jack says, no, this entire situation seems off somehow. Not just the wedding, but you've got Vesper's arm, Marv's morpher, the whole missing month thing, etc. As Marv walks over, Jack says that it's not like he wants to mess up Joe's special day or anything. Besides, maybe this is all just a dream or something. Marv pinches Jack on the face and he screams. No, not a dream. Though to be honest, I've never really understood the whole this can't be a dream because I can feel pain thing. Lots of stuff happens in dreams. Anyway, the happy couple comes by and drags the Rangers into the reception, which is a garden party. The Rangers try to just let loose and have a good time, but can't quite shake the feeling that something's not right here. Time for Vesper to be weird. She pulls Eddie aside and says that he has to believe her. Alpha has evil plans to take her out and be the top robot on the ship. Eddie manages to talk her down for the moment. Marv flirts with some of Nadira's friends, and you need to go watch the session just to see Marv's face. Marv is awkward and doesn't know what to do. It's kind of like... But I can't even do it justice. Seriously, go watch it. Eddie says that maybe Marv just needs to be part of a group that's dancing in order to be able to relax. Like him and Vesper, for example. Vesper has a different idea, that the one Marv is meant to be dancing with is Chloe. She turns him towards Chloe, who has basically thrown her entire face into the wedding cake. But she still says that it's his face that is the problem, and I am telling you it was. Marv used Scary Face, and it was very effective. And now it's time to cut the cake. It turns out that the section that Chloe threw her face into was just one part of the cake, so Joe is able to rotate it so that that part is hidden from view. And as per tradition, Nadira gets Joe in the face with a big handful of the cake, which makes it a perfect time for Marv's gift, a red towel embroidered in Sharpie with their initials. Nadira loves it anyway, hugging Marv and saying that they are family now. Even as Marv can't help shake the feeling, he just can't shake that feeling that something is going on here. Joe begs away from Nadira for a few moments to talk shop, and she agrees, going to dance with some of her other friends. Marv points out that the last time that he saw Joe and Nadira, their relationship wasn't really on about to get married terms. You might remember they were at the animal shelter in Silver Hills. Joe had just revealed to Nadira that he was back, making her upset about where he'd been all this time. So yeah, it didn't seem like they were about to tie the knot. Joe says that he's actually confused about this as well. He has incredibly vague memories of talking things out with Nadira and the two of them making up, but they're foggy. You might remember how Marv asked Joe if having the wedding now was rushing things a little bit, and despite the whole years of engagement not fitting into the one missing month thing, the timetable for the wedding was actually moved up. Why? Because Nadira wanted the wedding to be done before Joe joined the Hyperforce Rangers. Yes, that's right, Joe has officially been reassigned by Time Force to the Hyperforce team. But in what aspect? He's not a ranger anymore. Support, technical, what's going on? Patience, my friends, patience. Joe actually did go to have that meeting with Jen to receive the item that she said she had for him, but Jen wasn't in the office at the time. He woke up the next day, and it was time for the wedding. The Rangers fill Joe in on the weird things going on their side of the story, but he says that he doesn't know anything about that either. Chloe gets a character moment as she wistfully watches Nadira and Rancic have their father-daughter dance. Meanwhile, Eddie scans the crowd looking for Bianca, though he denies it when Marv asks him. Eddie has a weird little scene here, made all the more weird by the fact that Andre basically took control of the action to have himself a little moment. Eddie scans through the crowd looking for either Bianca or his parents. Malika said that, this is basically a big military wedding, and Silver Hills is basically a town built around the Time Force Academy, so it would be a big society event and the Banks would attend if only just to be seen at the event. Eddie finds his parents and Bianca together talking to each other. So what does he do? He fades back into the crowd before they can see him. Okay. Alpha contacts the Rangers with Vesper responding. He says they just received a distress call from somebody calling themselves the Sentinel Knight. He says that he needs the Rangers' help as something called the Corona Aurora is in danger. That's right, heroes. It's time for this story to kick into overdrive. The Rangers gather back up and Alpha gives them the history of the Corona Aurora, especially how in the year 2007, factions of villains tried to find and reassemble the crown and jewels, which have power over life and death in the universe. This thing is basically the Infinity Gauntlet of the Power Rangers universe. The crown was protected by the Sentinel Knight, an entity that defended the crown from anyone who would use it from evil, and maybe just tried to protect anyone from getting their hands on it in general. The Rangers realized that an artifact that powerful would be of great use to the Alliance, so they need to go back in time and defend it. Joe goes to Nadira and sadly tells her that duty calls. She's incredulous at first that this is happening on her wedding day, but then she realizes that this is what she signed up for. She's the wife of a cop now. She says, go get him and come back safe. The Shee brothers bid farewell to their parents once again and board the time ship with Vesper and Chloe. Eddie dodges his parents one more time to board the ship, and Jack takes a quick stroll around the city to survey repair efforts before getting on the ship as well. Vesper wonders if Joe's going to be okay, coming along with the Rangers but not having a morpher. Oh, but that reminds Joe to tell them that while he didn't actually have his meeting with Jen, he was able to pick up the item that she said she had for him. And that was a Hyperforce morpher. Yes, Joe is joining the Hyperforce Rangers as their 6th Ranger. So, what color is he? What ancient Greek myth? What did I tell you guys before? Patience, patience! Alpha replays the Sentinel Knight's distress call, and Eddie tells the rest of the team about the Operation Overdrive Power Rangers, who regathered the jewels of the crown and protected the crown from evil. Well, actually, they regathered the jewels of the crown and then gave them to Flurious in exchange for Mac's life, and then defeated Flurious and got the crown back, but anyway, Marv also remembers that, like Vesper, their team's Red Ranger, Mac, was an android. Chloe then pulls Marv aside and admits how sad the wedding made her. Her parents won't be able to attend her wedding. She won't be able to dance with her father or share that moment with her mother. Marv says that if this crown is as powerful as they're saying, power over life and death, maybe they can use it to bring her parents back. Chloe then realizes that she completely forgot to ask Abigail what she found out about her parents. Whoops. They jump to December 2007, and if we assume that the events of the show were taking place as the show was airing, that places this approximately a month after the Overdrive Rangers defeated Flurious and secured the Corona Aurora. Alpha scans for the Sentinel Knight and detects him near a waterfall in Greece. After scanning the area to make sure it's secure, the Rangers teleport down. The knight senses the ranger's arrival and calls out to them. He says that the crown isn't actually there, that he's hidden it on another planet, but now he senses that a dark energy has located the crown and is moving to get it from the planet Aquitar. Yes, the Sentinel Knight hid the crown on the planet Aquitar, figuring that it had a team of Power Rangers, however alien they may have seemed to you, and that it would be safe there. But now he's feeling like maybe he should check on the crown and move it if necessary. Jack says that, understandably considering their history, they're a little bit skeptical of strange mystical creatures who come up and ask them to do things. Malika rolls for the Sentinel Knight, and he manages to emanate a wave of good, positive energy towards the Rangers, and that makes them feel like that they can trust him. He excitedly asks if he can ride with them in their ship. Jack thinks this would be fine at first, though Marv wonders about the team's rules. Jack says that it's not like they're time traveling, they're just going from place to place in the same time, so it should be just fine. I might remind you that Alpha once refused to teleport two historical figures from place to place, not only in the same time, but on the same planet, in the same country. But okay, I guess this is fine. All of a sudden, Vesper remembers that it's been like 2 or 3 sessions since she thought about Rito, her dog. But she thinks that it's probably fine because she left the dog in her and Chloe's room. Chloe suddenly realizes that the dog's probably been feeding himself on all the burritos she has stashed in there. She runs back up to the ship and finds a big, fat little doggy that's really, really happy. And she does a Darth Vader scream. They head for Aquitar, traveling I guess at just warp speed or something, and they arrive there pretty quickly. Aquitar looks just like Earth, except with very little land on it. The Sentinel Knight had said that he'd hidden the crown inside of a dormant volcano, so they find that volcano and have the time ship hover near it. We cut to a dark black room on the Alliance's time ship. The Alliance leader is talking to Lokar, who, if you don't remember, is the big giant head that was good with illusions during Mighty Morphin Season 1. And the leader says that Lokar will join them for their goal of evil. Along with him are Scorpina, Velkanos, and 2 new monsters that we don't know yet. One of them is laughing and snorting about how evil is their goal. Back on Aquitar, the Rangers see those 2 new monsters, big blue monsters that are laughing and snorting as they're using their abilities to part water to look for something. The Sentinel Knight says he's never seen them before, but he does remind the teams of the tales of the Hydro Hog, an Aquitian villain who had the ability to absorb water. All 6 Rangers, boy, it's nice to be able to say 6 Rangers again, and the Sentinel Knight teleport down, seeing these creatures creating circles of land in the water as they search. They don't see the Rangers yet, so they debate whether they should fight or just observe. Chloe especially worries that the monsters might be pretty squishy and hard to damage since they absorb water. Marv asks the Knight what they should do, and the Sentinel Knight says that he's going to tell the Rangers where he's hidden the crown. Up there, at the top of the volcano. Marv feels like hiding the crown at the very top of a large mountain that sticks out of the water was something that was a little bit obvious. Marv wants to scout ahead and have the rest of the team stay back, but Chloe won't let him split off again. The Sentinel Knight ends up leading them all up the mountain volcano towards the crown, though Joe decides to stay behind, and Chloe apparently has no problem with this because she hates him or something? I don't know. Anyway, the Sentinel Knight thankfully reveals that just a short way up the mountain, there are some stairs. The dry circles start growing, and Joe decides that he should activate his invisibility. He realizes in the sand he's still going to be visible, so he tries to find a bush or something to hide behind, but there doesn't seem to be any vegetation anywhere around him. Thus, the 2 monsters quickly see his footprints in the sand, find him, and realize that he is not Aquitian. By the way, their names are Hydro Jr. and Hogs Jr., and they are the 2 sons of Hydro Hog. I'm not sure what's weirder about this. The fact that Hydro Hog apparently named his presumably twin sons by splitting his own name in half, meaning technically that Hogs Jr.'s full name is Hog's Hog Jr., isn't it? Or the fact, not shaming here at all necessarily, just the weirdness of the idea that Hydro Hog would be able to find a creature to mate with. Anyway, the two monsters charge at Joe, joining their arms and throwing a 5-minute break at him. When the break clears, the two teleport around Joe and grab each of his hands and begin draining the water out of his body. Joe takes a huge hit from this and feels very drained. He tries to cross-kick them and also gets a quick message out to Marv, who starts running back. Marv leaps into the air, morphs, and does a spinning attack towards Hydro Jr. He calls out to Joe, telling him to pull Hogs Jr. into the same line of motion. Hydro Jr. ducks, so Marv's kick misses, but Joe does manage to pull Hogs Jr. into that same line. Chloe morphs and fires off a hurricane whirlwind, picking up some water with it and then moving it to the sand, hoping to create some mud to slow the two monsters down. She goes double super, and this works, throwing a bunch of mud and rocks and stuff at hitting Hogs. Eddie starts to run to the fight, and it has taken this long for the Sentinel Knight to realize that something is going on. He stops Eddie and asks if he can come along to the fight. He puts a hand on the Blue Ranger's shoulder and grants him one very important point of energy, boosting him from 5 to 6. Eddie leaps into the air, morphs, and grabs Hogs Jr., using his link with water to reverse the draining process, sending some water back into Joe. However, Hogs Jr. dodges away, letting go of Joe, and starts the process on Eddie, hitting him for some dehydrating damage. Though it seems like his link with water should protect him from that, but hey. Jack doesn't morph at first, just running towards the battle and firing shots from his standard blaster. Malika tells him that morphing would probably be a good idea right now, so he does so and keeps shooting. Hog sees him coming and teleports away, but has to release Eddie in the process. Vesper, for some reason, is standing back watching all of this happen. The Sentinel Knight approaches her and asks if they can work together, and she agrees. She morphs and pulls out her Cerberus disc, and it's in 2 pieces, and she doesn't remember why. So, of course, she blames Alpha for this once again. Forgetting that for now, she turns to Eddie and says that they never actually got to dance at the wedding, so let's do it now. She wants to play Red Rover with Hogs, but he quickly teleports out of range. I don't really remember what happened at this point, but basically Malika decided that the Rangers needed to take another turn, so one of them had to be picked at random to go again. Malika drew a name from the hat, basically, and it was Vesper. She checks if her blaster is damaged as well, and when she sees that it's not, she just decides to shoot Hydro in the back. She hits him, and he teleports a small distance away, letting go of Joe's other hand. Everyone is free of the draining. Now that Joe is free, he's finally able to morph. Ready, heroes? Joe morphs into the green Hyperforce Ranger, and his suit is freaking sick. I'm going to try to find some fan art or something to put up to show you all right here. I'm trying to avoid upsetting the copyright bots as Power Rangers transitions over to Hasbro, so we'll work with what we have, but I want you to take a look at this. It is basically underneath just the green Hyperforce suit, but you'll notice I said underneath, just like the original Green Ranger, the suit comes with a big gold shield. He has 2 Hydra swords that do a multi-strike attack, and he also has an ability that allows him to add 1d6 of damage for every 10 damage that he takes. Freaking 6th Rangers, always overpowered at their debut. He uses that multi-strike sword attack, hitting Hydro Jr. with all of them. Hydro Jr. flops on his back and declares he's done. Oh, the battle is over. I have lost. I have been defeated. You got me. Eddie turns to Vesper and drops to one knee. Whoa, 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 whoa. What? He asks Vesper for her hand. No, I mean her arm. He wants to use her arm to attack. He starts mashing in 3-button combinations looking for one that works. Suddenly, there's a bright flash, and when they can see again, there is a rocket at the end of Vesper's arm, which she fires at Hogs, and it blasts him. Hogs looks over at Hydro, sees what he's doing, and copies that, flopping to the ground. Oh no, you got me, I have lost the battle, Stella, I'm coming, etc., etc. The Rangers obviously aren't buying this, so Marv and Jack activate their badges to do a cryo freeze. Hogs Jr. jumps up and teleports away towards the Sentinel Knight. Hydro Jr. jumps up and tries to dodge the beam, but it nicks him and he takes some damage. I don't really think that's how that works. I think if the beam touched him at all, it would activate the cryo freeze. But anyway, Hogs grabs Sentinel Knight and tries to use the water draining technique on him, but either he doesn't have any water in his body or that technique just doesn't work on him. Hogs demands to know where the Corona is, but the Knight won't tell him, so he just grabs the Sentinel Knight and starts dragging him up the volcano. The Knight pulls out his sword, Excelsior, to defend himself. And to be perfectly honest with you, heroes, I started checking the chat for a moment and kind of lost track of the story. But really, I don't think anything very important happened. It's not like anyone died or anybody did anything consequential. Jack runs up the mountain, hooks Hogs, and throws him down into the water. He asks the Sentinel Knight if he's okay, but the Knight says right now their priority is the crown. The two of them run back up the mountain and look down inside of it. Meanwhile, Chloe fires up another whirlwind, I think with the intention of using it to fly up the mountain herself, but Hydro sees it happening, grabs her ankle, and pulls her back down, and they both end up buried in the sand. Back on the dormant volcano, the ground starts to shake and the magma starts to shift. The volcano is activating. The crown is sitting on a chest a few platforms into the volcano. So, like, down inside the caldera, down where the magma... Anyway, Jack and the Knight jump across the platforms to get to the chest. Jack makes it just fine, but the Sentinel Knight misses on the last platform by about a half of a foot and starts to fall backwards in. Jack, of course, is able to grab him and pull him back up. The Sentinel Knight grabs the chest, grabs Jack, and leaps back up to the top of the volcano. If you were able to do that, why didn't you just jump down? The two of them run back down the volcano to meet the other Rangers on the beach. Eddie runs up to where Chloe is in the sand and says that he grabbed a burrito and some of the wedding cake and made the Wed-rito. Actually, to be fair, Eddie said that he made the birth-rito, but it wasn't a birthday cake, it was a wedding cake. Chloe bursts from the sand just as the phoenix rises from the ashes and grabs that Wed-rito. The blast of her departure conveniently hits Hydro Jr. pretty hard. He takes some serious damage and starts running for Hogs, who is still in the ocean. Eddie runs down to the water line, stabbing his trident in to create a force ripple that'll grab the two monsters and drag them back to the shore. He actually rolls so well that he creates a hand with the water, which scoops the two up and drags them back to the shore, and then Eddie gives it a high five. Hydro groans, rolls over, and fades away, defeated. Hogs looks at the spot where his twin brother once was, and then turns to the Rangers with furious anger. And then he quickly realizes that he's very weak, so he needs to run away. Marv activates his badge once again, and it works this time with kind of an unexpected consequence. You see, they really took the whole cryo freeze thing to heart here. With all of that water inside of his body, when he's frozen, that water expands as ice, and he explodes, shattering and fading away. Jeez, sounds like a Sub-Zero fatality. With the two of them gone, the ocean starts filling back in, because apparently that's a thing, and the volcano chooses this convenient time to erupt. Eddie and Chloe use their water and wind powers to protect the team as they call Alpha for a teleport. The water manages to break through Chloe's wind, and the lava is slowly approaching, but then Alpha is able to teleport them out. The Rangers watch from the ship as the lava forms a brand new island, which the Equations leave the water to start exploring. You know, this would be a great place for a juice bar! The Sentinel Knight turns to the Rangers and thanks them for their help, revealing the Corona Aurora to them. He says he realizes that his mistake was hiding the crown anywhere. He needs to keep it with him and protect it personally. Marv asks the Sentinel Knight for a favor, which he agrees to, but Chloe quickly says no. If her parents are dead, that's the way history's gone, and they shouldn't change that just for her emotional desires or whatever. Besides, she just can't shake that feeling she has that they are still alive. With that agreed upon favor still on the table, Vesper asks for her old arm back, as well as her broken disc, to be repaired. She tells the Sentinel Knight that Alpha broke it. The Knight isn't so sure he believes that, since Alpha seems to be a creature of good. However, Alpha says that he can't remember if he actually broke it or not, but he can fix it. So the Knight leaves that to him, and the whole favor thing is kind of basically forgotten. The Knight says he's going to take his leave of the Rangers now, and Marv asks if he's confident that he can protect the crown. He says as long as the Rangers are defending the Earth, he'll be able to protect the crown. Chloe sort of tells the Knight about the Alliance leader. Joe wonders if they could study the powers of the crown, but Marv says that maybe everything related to the crown is best left in the distant past. Jack says that if the Knight needs them again, all he needs to do is call. Chloe asks him if he needs a ride anywhere, maybe a cloaked trip in the Hyperstream? The Knight says he really just wants to go back to the waterfall on Earth where they found him. Eddie sidebars Joe and says that he really appreciates him leaving his own wedding, so he's made him a little gift. He takes him down to the simulation deck, where he's recreated the wedding as well as a holographic Nadira so the two can have their dance. The camera of our imagination kind of pans out from this, and we get a little epilogue scene. The Alliance leader stretches his hand towards the Earth and declares that he will destroy the Earth and the Sentinel Knight, and will get his hands on the Corona Aurora. This session was always shaping up to be a very interesting one, seeing as they had to transition away from the dark, grim, gritty, bleak events of Shattered Grid back into Hyperforce's still mature but not nearly as dark storyline, not to mention the fact that they had sort of the cooperation with Boom, factoring in this whole forgetting a month thing due to events in the Shattered Grid timeline that couldn't quite be explained. However, I think they handled it all very, very well. Everything flowed very smoothly, and I really like how we went from the missing month to Joe's wedding to going into action in another time period, transitioning us, as I mentioned earlier, right back to the idea of the Hyperforce Rangers' primary mission of fighting the Alliance in various Power Ranger time periods. Everything was handled really well, and we got the debut of Joe's awesome new suit as the Green Ranger. Quest for the Crown gets a 5 out of 5. And that is going to do it for another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. Thank you, heroes, so much, as always, for watching. In the comments below, let me know what you thought about this session, the debut of the Green Hyperforce Ranger, as well as my review of it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see all of my videos, and ring that bell, get your notifications set up, so you get notified of whenever I post brand new videos, just like this Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. And if you really liked this review or other videos I make and you want to lend me some financial support, head over to digitaltipjar.com/orangerangervid, toss a little tip change into that jar, and I greatly appreciate whatever lands inside of it. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you, and go Hyperforce. Also, Jen said that as the Rangers check back in with the people that they have been thought to have been missing for an entire month. Farts! Explaining how it was an ancient artifact that groups of evil factions of villains, about how in 2007, factions of evil villains is redundant. How in the year 2007, factions of villains tried to gather They jumped to December 2007, and but that now he senses that a dark energy has located the crown, Marv thinks it'll be alright at first, although Marv is actually the one who wonders about the rules. The Sentinel Knight... They head for Aquitar, basically just traveling at warp speed, I guess, and they arrive there pretty quickly. They head for Aquitar, basically just traveling at warp speed, I guess, or something, and they arrive there pretty quickly. What the heck? Aquitar looks like Earth. Eddie leaps into the air, morphs, and does the other thing. Eddie runs over to where Chloe is buried in the Cortana! Eddie runs over to where Chloe... Stop it! Chloe bursts from the sand and... farts. Eddie runs down to the water line, stabbing his trident into the water. Cortana popped up again. Anytime I say Eddie, it pops up.